Today, we're going to take a look at the top 6 framer sites that exist out there right now, starting with Ensemble. Now, this site is pretty incredible. On scroll, as you get started with the website, you get all the apps that are appearing on either side of the header, merge down into one image or merge below that one image. And when you get past that image, you get the start for free button expands into the nav bar. So this is just that here alone is quite incredible. And when you get to this section here, the one right under it, we get this sticky section that has text highlighted as you scroll. You can't see it right now, but I'm scrolling and it's moving the text highlight along the way. Now this site is full of section transitions, just like this next one here. If you take a look at the top corner, you'll see what I mean. But as we start to move closer to the start of this section, it'll show us where it's going to stick to the top of the nav or the top of the browser. And then on scroll, it'll make the background go white. And then this image appears on top of this living room or conference area that you see in a lot of hotels or big offices. After that, we get this really nice bento section. Now you guys know that I love these bento sections. I have it in my own course site. But anyways, this kind of section is incredible if you can include this kind of hover animation or even a transition effect or anything like that. So on hover, we get this very simple in progress mouse overlay animation. And when you hover out, it does the opposite of what it starts with. So it reverses the animation. The same thing happens with all of these. After you hover outside of it, it'll reverse the animation, which is pretty neat. It doesn't feel like you're like completely getting rid of the animation and then starting again. You're reversing it. And then the only thing is that if you kind of catch it while it hasn't started over yet, then it's a little bit janky, but whatever, that's all good. This section, very, very nice, this bento section. And again, we have another sticky section here where on scroll, we get these apps that kind of come up and it allows us to tell a story of what this app is trying to do. So it's trying to consolidate all these different apps and services into a single service, which can help a lot of people, obviously. So after that, we get more bento sections, which can be a little bit overdone if you kind of forget about the typical standard sections that help people just understand your product better, like the typical text on the left, image on the right. But I think this is a good way of showcasing imagery if you have a lot of good animations to kind of go with it. And again, we get another one of these sticky sections. And I'm going to go ahead and say that if you have this kind of section as a component, you can just use different images, different animations, and it's very, very easy and quick to get started and create a brand new one. So finally here, after this other bento section, we get this final section here, which is a more standard, but still has these nice scroll animations for these icons. And we can see that it ends up here with this ready to get organized, yes or no. And you can kind of see that if we scroll over the no, it's going to show us what's waiting for us if we don't do it, which is a nice incentive for the person to click yes. And then we finally get the footer on the bottom, which is quite simple in its own right. But let's take a look at the next site here. Now that last one had a lot of animation, had a lot of cool sticky sections. This one is a little bit more simple. It still has its own animations and transitions that we can get inspired from, but it's not that crazy. So it has a more standard hero header, which aligns to the left. We get some overlapping logos here that showcase the different kind of companies that these people have worked with. And then on scroll, we get the background to change color from black to white. Notice the book and intro button here as well goes through a transition inside of that section. And then the entire rest of the site is going to be in this white color. After we get past these testimonial or these data points that they have here, we get to the sticky section. And this is really nice because you can see that they have their services playing in the video with how expensive it is to do this actual service. And then as you keep scrolling, it'll update the price and it'll update the video as well with real life projects. So you can kind of see what you're getting, how much you're paying for it in this nice scroll interaction. And so one, it's nice to actually, sorry, it's a bit distracting. It's nice to actually look at the site and go through it. And it actually helps you understand what you're paying for, how much their services are. So it's a great way to kind of combine both of them. We get a similar sticky section here that helps us understand more about what these people do. On scroll, it changes the image and it highlights a different part of the text. And then you get this simple FAQ, which I think could be improved, to be honest, but I think it's fine if the rest of the site looks really, really nice. And yeah, that's it for this one. Let's go on to the next one. All right, so this site, absolutely insane. This hello to TinyPod, or thetinypod.com. All the links are gonna be in the description, by the way, if you wanna check them out. This site is insane. It is obviously a very close inspiration from Apple sites, but I think that's on purpose because this is supposed to be like an Apple extension. So you use your Apple Watch as an iPod kind of. And I think this is a very, very nice looking product. It helps me think about the simpler times when we didn't have Instagram and all this stuff. It's like everything you need inside of your watch. And that way you can kind of use it as a phone by itself, but you don't need to go ahead and have the entire phone with you, right? So it's quite simple. Anyways, I really like this because it shows that you don't need to have an entire dev team like Apple does to custom code their entire site. So this is made entirely inside of Framer, which is insane. You can see that the hand is actually a 3D model. It's not a real person's hand, which is quite interesting that they opted for that. But I guess it makes more sense if you consider that the way that this is probably animated is, one, they create the entire animation in something like Blender or Spline, if they're brave enough to do that. And then they export all of that as PNGs, and then they can overlay it on top of the site itself. So it's kind of like, it might be easier to have a 3D model that tracks your actual hand rather than having a hand that comes in with a 3D model and then kind of interacts with it. So that might be a little bit more confusing, and then you wouldn't have these shadows interacting with the product. So I think that that's a very neat way of doing it. So yeah, here it shows that it kind of replaces your phone without actually doing so, but it's kind of like a nice intermedium. And then we have this bento section, which I think could be improved a little bit. It's giving some vibes from early Apple, like 2010. Like this logo here, I think this site could be in this section alone could be improved. But other than that, it's quite similar to the traditional Apple sites, which they do very, very well in this case. So yeah, this section here, say hello to TinyPod, and then it scrolls and zooms out and it's this whole thing, absolutely amazing. But anyways, let's move on to the next one here. This next site is completely different. It has nothing to do with crazy animations or transitions like the last one, but this is kindheart.design. So this is a design agency that does things a different way. So this is a hero header. We have companies turn to Kind Heart when failure isn't an option. So instantly tap into a God tier design studio for simple monthly fee, view plans, schedule intro. So that's a pretty simple hero header. There's no crazy imagery, there's no animation, anything like that. And you don't necessarily need any of those things. And this agency kind of shows that. So quick stats, $1 billion in combined VC start evaluations, and blah, 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 93%. So right off the bat, you see that, okay, this is going to be a good company to work with because they have a track record. Here's a testimonial and then a letter from the founder and CEO. Now, it is a nice touch that on hover, we get these kind of watercolor illustrations, which you never really see. You can move these clouds around. So, oh my God, they actually bounce around. So yeah, pretty nice way to start the site. There's nothing insane about this, and you can do this with clonables in a Framer. It's quite simple to do, but that's just a very nice way to start the site. There's no overwhelming animations like we have in the previous ones. So anyways, after you scroll past the hero and that love letter from the CEO, you get to the view work sections. This allows you to see the sections in big format, which I obviously love. And when you click into it, it'll show you the actual project, the company stage, industry, time to MVP, things like that. And then just the big images, finalizing with a book a discovery call. You can click on to the next case study. So this is just a very simple way to showcase your products. And this is similar to what I have in my own agency site. It's just project, project, project. Once you click on it, you get the actual text related to it and then just big images. So it's a very, very simple way of doing it, and it's quite nice. So again, we have a very simple section after this portfolio. We have our services. So this just showcases what they're doing. There's no crazy animations here. It's just a simple text with a list, right? Then we get the testimonials, which has a nice touch with this kind of laurel on the side. And one thing to note is that all these people are usually going to be quite high up in the company, which is something important for testimonials, like founder and CEO, advisor, head of marketing, VP of special products. So yeah, that's just something to keep in mind there. And then the monthly membership also has these nice clouds, which you can play around with. So, well, I'm actually quite impressed with these clouds. But anyways, you can see where this is going. There's obviously a lot of thought that went into this, and you can feel that with this site without it being overbearing, having too many design animations, transitions, things like that. The next one wins in terms of the UI, but there's no crazy animations in this at all. It's a very static site, but that's not so bad. Actually, the one thing I will say is that it has this scroll, kind of like a heavy scroll to it. But anyways, okay, so what's interesting about Creo.ai is that number one, it has a heavy feature of images. There isn't a lot of interactivity, but there's this animation, and you don't necessarily need all these crazy transitions and animations, but it shows that just by having, you know, a nice font, nice color palette, nice imagery, you can go through a lot of the ups and downs of a site. The one thing I will say is that this section here loads a little bit slow for me, and I'm on a M1, M2 MacBook, so it should be fast. But anyways, it does load a little bit slow for me, and I do think it's because some of these animations take up a lot of space. They are quite big, but anyways, I also wanted to show you guys this, which is insanity. And I actually have a video coming out on how you can recreate this for your own site, so that's coming up soon. So stay tuned for that. But anyways, this site is a nice bento, but it loads a little bit slowly, which is a downtick for this site. But other than that, the design itself is really nice. It has a simple layout, simple typography, simple color, but you can see that that doesn't take away from the fact that it's a great looking site. So guys, that's 6 Framer sites that can inspire you. My favorite 2 was number 1, Assemble, which, I mean, it kind of goes above and beyond with all these animations and the sticky header. And then it's gonna be the Tiny Pod, because I just think that the product is super, super cool, and they did a great job with the 3D animation. So those 2 sites for me win this competition. If it were a competition, I don't know if it is. But anyways, let me know down below in the comments which one is your favorite, because I think everybody has a different opinion on these kind of things. But anyways, I will say that the animations are a bit much, and I'd love to see how this actually looks like on mobile, actually. So let's go ahead and do that so we can see that. Okay. Say hello to Tiny Pod. I'm guessing that it wouldn't flicker like that on an actual phone. But anyways, okay, so it's made to look nice and mobile as well, which is good. A lot of times these super heavy animation sites would just have a static mobile. They kind of just recreate the entire site to be static on mobile. But I'm glad that these guys actually went ahead and put in the effort to make it look nice on mobile as well. So that's all for this video. I'll see you guys on the next one.